Good afternoon. I'm tempted to say good evening, but I'm not sure when exactly the evening begins and when the afternoon ends. When do you say good evening? I tend to think it's, around dusk when good evening is appropriate, and then when it's properly dark, you probably don't say good night because it's more of a farewell, but you move on from saying good evening. And usually that's about 5 p.m, but it's not quite 5 p.m. So I think for today, we'll have to stick with good afternoon. And I apologize if it's not the case where you are at the moment, that it's the afternoon. But the world's funny like that. So continuing on from our sort of exotic, our not often seen trend, we have a dragon fruit here. And this is looking a bit sad, I've left it a bit long. It's quite old. Usually it has like lots of leaves. You can see these green parts here. They're a bit greener, but they've gone all crispy now. And they say that if you leave the dragon fruit longer, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not rotten or anything. They say if you leave it a bit longer, the sweeter it'll get. And perhaps we'll see. Now the skin on this is very rubbery, quite firm, and you won't really be able to tell how ripe it is, maybe as easily as you would with like a peach or a nectarine or any of those sorts of fruits. Generally, you can tell how ripe it is by how soft it is, but the skin is quite firm and rubbery the whole time round. So perhaps it's good that we have these leaves here to give us a better indication of how old or how fresh it is. Now, I have had a dragon fruit before, but dragon fruit, well, typically when I see them, they come in two varieties. There's ones with red flesh and there's ones with white flesh. And they say you can sort of tell the difference. The ones with the white flesh have a more pink outside, and the outside here, and the ones with red flesh have a more red as opposed to pink outside. Now, I've never really met anyone that can tell the difference, and I probably couldn't. It's certainly not just at a glance, but when I had a dragon fruit, it was white on the inside. That was the only dragon fruit I've ever had. I had it on recommendation. But this, I couldn't get white dragon fruit for you. I've cut it quite poorly here, so the light reflects a bit strangely, but you can see inside it's red, or it's very dark now. It's almost like a beetroot, a dark red, almost purple color now. And you can also get a yellow dragon fruit. They have a yellow skin, and the flesh is white on the inside. But it looks exactly the same, except instead of red, it's white. You don't know if you can see particularly well, but on the inside here we've got all these seeds. And it often gets compared to a kiwi fruit. Now, obviously, if you haven't seen one, it's quite a bit bigger than a kiwi fruit. But because of the seeds on the insides, that's something you don't really see very often. Outside of a dragon fruit or a kiwi fruit, they're perfectly edible, they're crunchy. They're like chia seeds if you've ever had those. So, a lot of people think dragon fruit, I believe they're also known as pitaya, though I've never heard them called that. I've only ever heard them called dragon fruit. Pitaya, if I'm even saying that correctly, is their native name. Now, a lot of people tend to think dragon fruit is very exotic, sounds like an Asian thing, but they actually come from more southern, Central America. I think like Mexico grows a lot of dragon fruit, Colombia as well. They're grown. I think they're quite easy to grow, from what I understand. If you live somewhere quite warm and arid, where even in winter it doesn't get much below, it doesn't really get below 10 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that would be in Fahrenheit, probably like 45 or 50 or something. Then I think they're quite easy to grow. They grow. This is actually the fruit of a cactus plant, and if you've ever grown a cactus, they're pretty low maintenance as far as growing things go. And so these are, they're originally a Mexican thing, but still exotic as far as everything goes. They're not really as commonplace as pears or apples, let's say that. And generally, if you go and you buy one, you end up paying quite a lot. I know these were they would have been about, I'd say like $7 a pound or something like that. Usually they're charged per dragon fruit, not by weight. But yeah, these weren't cheap when I went to buy them, and I'd like to have gotten, you know, a red and a white, but unfortunately they only had the red. But it is nice to step outside of our comfort zones and, you know, try something new, try something different, try something you haven't really seen before. Now, dragon fruit, very easy to eat. We can cut it in half like this and just take our spoon here and just dig in like it was a pudding, or we can quarter it and then just peel the skin off. Just comes right off very easily, especially if your fruit is ripe, you know, as is common. The skin, you can't really do anything with it. It's like very rubbery, very sort of leathery. Just throw it out, just get rid of it, compost it maybe. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and dive straight in here, and we'll see how we go. I'm gonna try just eating it with the spoon here. See how well it works. And you can see the spoon just goes straight in. And maybe you have to do a perpendicular cut with your spoon to sort of dig out the chunk that you're going for, because it is very juicy. I don't know if you can see, but there's quite a lot of juice in there. You know, if I squeeze it, especially with it being the red flesh one, I'd probably get juice everywhere. Now, back to an original story of when I was first recommended a dragon fruit. You know, I was told that they were this person's favorite fruit. And you know, when you hear something that is somebody's favorite, you know, you think, oh, there must be like a really unique and strong quality to it. So I went out post haste and bought myself a dragon fruit and tried it. Now it's been a while, so I couldn't really tell you, generally speaking, if there's a much of a difference between the white and the red flesh of dragon fruit, but to me it tastes much the same. And what does it taste like? Well, not much. You know, dragon fruit, they're very, very low in calories, which is fine, you know, if you're trying something exotic. You know, if you could get these really cheap, or maybe you're growing your own, they'd be great to snack on because they're so low in calories. But if you're going out and, you know, you're buying one and maybe you're trying to lose weight, so you buy one for breakfast or something, you know, you're going to lose money quite quickly. So they're very low in calories. And they say you leave them out longer, so they're sort of overripe and they get sweeter the longer they're left out. Well, maybe they do, but an improvement on zero, going up by 500% from zero is still zero. You know, they're not that sweet. The seeds have a nice crunch, and there's a sort of flavor to them, but you know, again, it's like eating kiwi fruit and trying to discern the flavor of the seeds. I guess, you know, they taste kind of nutty, like seeds tend to do. The flesh itself is, yeah, it's very, very light. It almost tastes like a very, very, very weak pear. Maybe I was going to say celery before, but I don't think that's quite right. I almost want to compare it to a very weak elderberry, which I suppose doesn't really help you because most people aren't familiar with the taste of elderberries either. But that's sort of really what it reminds me of. Now look, I don't want to disparage it too much, but at the end of the day, you are paying quite a lot for the dragon fruit. What are you getting out of it? Well, the same thing you get from a lot of fruits. The seeds give you a bit of fiber, you know, there's vitamin C, there's antioxidants, and you can go and you can read up studies of them feeding mice and rats dragon fruit and high fat diets, and how, you know, the dragon fruit helped give them extra insulin resistance and they put on less weight, and that's all well and good, but generally speaking, you can get that from you know, that sort of thing from eating most anything else, like any berry, any decent fruit, and you won't be paying the same amount for it. But you know, it is good to go out there and try these. And you know, I don't want to be too rude, because of course there's other uses for it as well. I see people using it in like salsas and stuff like that, or maybe in their yogurt, just to add a bit of texture, and that's fine. You know, I'm not I'm not gonna say, hey, don't do that, you'll regret it. But look, much the same as when I first tried the dragon fruit, it's very underwhelming, you know. And it's nice to go out there, like with the star fruit, and like with other fruits you might not or vegetables, or any foods really, you might not ever see again, might not have a chance to have tried yet. It's good to go out there and expand your horizons, expand your palate a little bit. But I wouldn't really, you know, I've had dragon fruit a couple of times now. I can't picture myself really going out there, really thinking to myself, boy, oh, I'm really craving a dragon fruit right now. You know, I know what it tastes like. It's very pretty. You know, if you have friends over and you've got a bowl of fruit, you know, as a centerpiece in the table, or maybe on your kitchen countertop, maybe chuck a dragon fruit in there, and it'll be really vibrant, and people can talk about that and say, wow, never had one of those before. You can make up stories about how great it is and how they need to get on it. But overall, not really feeling it. You know, again, it's nice and it's exotic and it's very pretty, and you can grow it yourself if you live in the appropriate climate. But apart from that, there's not really much else to say. I don't know. I'd give it a I'd say a 5.5 out of 10. You know, there's just really not that much to say about it, unfortunately, and it's a shame, because it is so very pretty. But sometimes the things that look so good, they have very little substance to them, and that's the lesson we all have to learn at some point. Okay, I think I think that about wraps it up. You know, next is Pink Ladies, the apple, I think, and after that there's a few more other things, but I'm not sure if I want to sort of knock out all the apples in one go. So that might take a while, but we'll see how we go. Pink Lady's definitely next though, so look forward to it if you're a fan, or even if you've never had an apple before. Good luck out there.